Hi Virgo, this is Tisch Aitken, and this is your monthly horoscope for the month of July, and it's a really intense month because we're in the middle of eclipse season and we have several planets retrograde. So on one level, we're moving in a very rapid pace with a lot of change and a lot of eventful occurrences are happening. And we have three eclipses as opposed to two, so that pronounces that even further. But we also have several planets retrograde. The only planets that aren't retrograde at the moment are Mars and Uranus. Mars is a heavy hitter this month and the rest of the year. So we'll get to that. So the lunar eclipse occurred on June 5th. There were three. So the lunar eclipse occurred on June 5th at 15 degrees of Sagittarius and occurred in your house of home and family and emotional foundation. And the nodes of fate changed signs on May 5th and entered the the Sagittarius Gemini axis. So for the rest of, well, really until January of 2022, the south node of karma is transiting in your house of home and family and real estate. So there may be changes in family or home. Maybe you're moving, maybe there's something you're letting go, however that may be. But that's an area that you're letting go on some level. And the north node of destiny, where you're meant to go towards, is transiting in your 10th house of career and aspirations, and that will be there also till January of 2022. So it's a lot around transiting in Gemini. It's a lot around gathering and dispersing information, and it's about education and learning, and it's ruled by Mercury, just like Mercury rules your chart. And by the way, the ruler of your chart is also retrograde. Mercury is retrograde in the sign of Cancer. It's stationed retrograde at 14 degrees of Cancer on June 18th, and it'll station direct on July 12th. So we've got it a while longer, but it's retrograde in your 11th house of friends and groups and how you network. So again, a lot of people from the past coming back, old friends, and it's good for also reconnecting for professional opportunities because it's very much for you with the north node of fate in your house of career, a lot of big connections and new beginnings in that area. And also the fact that Mercury is retrograding in the house of networking and social media. So excellent time to network, whether you're looking for new professional opportunities or building your own company and promoting it more, because it's an excellent time for you to reach out. And since Mercury does rule your chart, it already is a good time, and when people often do come back from the past. But the total solar eclipse that happened on the solstice weekend occurred also in your 11th house of friends and groups, and that was a very, very powerful new moon eclipse. That's where I think both lunar and solar eclipses bring beginnings and endings, and I've seen both. I've seen endings with solar and beginnings with lunar, but solar eclipses do tend to be about initiating new beginnings and planting new seeds, as does a new moon. But to have a total lunar or solar eclipse, it has to be within 9 degrees of the nodes of the moon. And in this case, this total solar eclipse occurred at 0 degrees of Cancer at the world axis, impacting each and every one of us and people on the world stage. So big events around that. And it was only a degree away from the north node of destiny. Although it was out of sign, it was still right there. I mean, you can only be 1 degree and then it'll be exactly conjunct. So that's very big. And again, at 0 cardinal, the cardinal signs are the signs that really impel us. And those are the signs that are Aries, Cancer, Libra, and Capricorn. But again, new beginnings and a lot of reconnecting and networking going further for you. But with that solar eclipse, because that'll loom for a while, that energy. Venus was retrograde from May 13th until June 25th. So we're still in the shadow of Venus retrograde, because that's also a personal planet, but it only retrogrades once every 18 months, as opposed to the ruler of your sign, Mercury, which retrogrades 3 to 4 times a year for approximately 3 weeks. So Venus was also transiting in your house of career, where the north node of fate is, and it's going to be transiting in that house until August 8th. So that's also opportune for making good professional connections and networking, because Venus in Gemini is very communicative and is excellent for connecting. So that's a positive in this. And we have a second new moon that occurs on June 20th at 28 degrees of Cancer. So that also falls in your house of friends and groups. We have two new moons in Cancer because the first one was at the very first degree of Cancer at 0 degrees, and the second eclipse on June 28th is at 0 degrees of, sorry, June 20th is at 28 degrees of Cancer. So you're having two new moons in that area, and you're also having a lot of reconnecting with Mercury retrograde in Cancer there. So a lot around friends and groups and hopefully people from your past that are helping you out or reconnecting, or you're helping them out, giving good energy. So that's also at play. And we have a third and final eclipse on July 5th, the day after the 4th of July, obviously. So that impacts the U.S. sun, and that occurs at 13 degrees of Capricorn, and that falls in your fifth house of creativity and self-expression and romance. And it could bring, perhaps it's bringing creative projects to fruition. It's in the last eclipse in Capricorn. So we're getting out of that Capricorn Cancer, well, at least the eclipse story. We're definitely not done with the Capricorn story yet, but we're done with the eclipses in the Capricorn Cancer axis. So we had the final eclipse in Cancer, and now we're having this final eclipse in Capricorn on July 5th. And, you know, it means that the 4th of July is going to be very intense, because if you ever have looked, if you know anything about eclipses and you've had an eclipse by your birthday, you know that it often brings a big change from that birthday to the next, the following year. So, you know, eclipses are very powerful. This eclipse is probably not the most, well, the total solar eclipse was the forerunner of the front run. Oh, I can't even talk, but I have an excuse. There are many planets retrograde, but it steals the show, let's say that, of these eclipses. But nonetheless, we have three, which underscores the fact that this is a very intense time. And Mars, I omitted the fact that Mars entered the sign of Aries on June 27th, and Mars is going to be in Aries until January 3rd. And that's problematic in the sense, well, it's very good for getting things done and for accomplishing things, and that's good, but it's fiery. It stirs people up. It's Mars driven. Mars rules the sign of Aries. It's the ancient ruler of Scorpio, and it's exalted in Capricorn. But fire cardinal means that cardinal signs always want to take action and launch things. But Aries is, you know, the first sign. It's impatient, and for you, it's occurring in the let's see here, in the sixth house of daily routine and habits and work. So you'll be very busy, and there's no problem for you to be busy, because Virgo is a sign that rules work. It's actually transiting in your house by solar astrology. But it's going to be that if you want to launch new things professionally, you want to do so before Mars retrograde, because Mars is going to retrograde from September 9th until November 13th. So that's actually in your birthday season. And Mars is going to clash with all this Capricorn in the sky, which is not going to be easy for any of us. It's going to set things off on the world stage, meaning that there will be big events, and there might be more comes from things that led the year on January 12th, whether it's around the virus or the economy, or just people feeling very stirred up about many reasons. And in your own lives, you want to be careful of how you use the energy. You want to channel it in a very effective way, but you also don't want to, you know, fly off the handle. So Mars is going to set off that Saturn-Pluto conjunction at the world axis 22 cardinal. The dates are August 11th, so leading up to that, like right around, you know, that date, the middle of August. October 7th, when Mars is retrograde, we feel that for a few days. That's probably even more problematic. That will be more problematic because Mars will be retrograde and does not like being held back. It's already feeling held back by, even when it's direct, when it stirs up the Capricorn story. So it's not going to like being retrograde and squaring that point. And then the third and final time is on December 19th, right by the winter solstice. So I think it's, advisable to try to launch new things. I know it's advisable to launch things during July and August, even though we're still having a lot of planets retrograde and, at least in Mars in Aries and a lot of card, because Saturn is also going to re-enter the sign of Capricorn. It briefly entered the sign of Aquarius, which is about technology, and it's about connection and networking. And it's going to re-enter the sign of Capricorn. And for you, that will also, Capricorn is trine your sign. So that helps to makes, which means it's a very positive influence. And that's your fifth house of creativity and self-expression. And so that's also helpful could bring romantic opportunities, but it also can, be that you're, getting, projects done that are creative projects, and it's an excellent time for all of us to take opportunity of the creative energy in the sky. I do think there is a lot of creativity, but we have at the end of the month on June 27th, Jupiter in Capricorn is going to form a sextile to Neptune, and that's an aspect of opportunity. And Neptune's transiting in your house of relationships, which is the ruler of your house of partnerships, and Jupiter is transiting in your fifth house of romance. So that could be a nice time for meeting somebody, potentially end of July into August. But it's going to be a very intense summer, and we're still in eclipse season, and Mars is going to really, boost things up a lot. So just being mindful that people are going to be very charged, get things done, accomplish, focus on your career, a lot around your career the next year and a half or so, and just and around a lot around creativity for you too. So I wish you a lot of luck. The ruler of your sign will be retrograde until July 12th, but the eclipse is going to be, the third and final. So again, it's right around a holiday, at least in the U.S., and it's going to hit the U.S. sun, and we're going to have this Mars story. Mars is charging ahead, and it just also, it entered on June 27th, and it set off that total solar eclipse at 0 Cancer. So again, in the beginning of July, and for a while, we're going to see a lot more brought to light, because eclipses uncover hidden information in our own lives, in world stories. A lot of changes occur with eclipses, particularly when you have 3 eclipses. So gear up and good luck, and use the Mars energy to get things done. And if you want to launch something new, try to avoid doing so from September 9th until November 13th. Okay, thank you very much. Take care.